Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is a new channel. We're doing tarot readings that are connected to a Jewish spiritual practice. You absolutely don't have to be Jewish to watch, but if you're interested in Jewish spirituality and religion, you're in the right place. And today we're going to be doing a pick a card reading for messages and advice for the next month. Whenever you happen to be watching us, it's a timeless reading. At the time that I'm posting this, we just kicked off February 2022, as well as the month of Adar on the Hebrew calendar. But in order to find your reading, I have 4 little abstract watercolors here for you to choose from. So I'll show them to you one at a time. And when you decide which one you feel most drawn to, what's resonating with you, you can click on the timestamp below to head straight to your reading. So pile 1 will be this watercolor here. Pile 2, we have this one. Pile 3. And pile 4. So take all the time you need to choose, and I will see you in your reading. Hi, pile 1. So for those of you who chose this watercolor, this is your reading. We're going to start with tarot to take a look at your current situation, and then we will move on to oracle cards for advice. So for tarot, I'm using the Lilien Tarot deck, which is this really cool deck that uses illustrations made by Ephraim Moses Lilien, who is a Jewish artist born in what's now the Ukraine in the late 19th century. A lot of these were made in the early 20th century. This deck was made way after his death, so these illustrations were not made with tarot in mind, but I think it's kind of interesting to think about which images were chosen for specific cards, and I'm definitely going to be getting into a lot of that and the sort of Jewish mythology and sort of biblical interpretations of a lot of these cards. So if that's not what you're interested in a reading, this might not be the video for you. But if you are on board, let us get into it and look at your cards. Okay, so for you, we have Death, which is not as scary as a card as it might look. The Ace of Cups, the 6 of Wands, and the 3 of Wands. Okay, so let's start with the Death card. So I want to talk a little bit about the illustration on this card. I think it's really interesting. So this card is Lilien's illustration of a dybbuk. And in Jewish mythology, a dybbuk is an evil spirit that is the dislocated soul of a dead person, and it enters your body for a specific purpose and then leaves. And it's derived from the Hebrew word davek, to adhere or cling. And the term davek, so diving deeper into this digression, the term davek first appears in Genesis, where it's written that a man will leave his father and his mother and will cleave to his wife, and they'll be as one flesh. In Kabbalah, there's a similar concept of dveikut, which is an ecstatic state where a person is closest and most intimate with the divine. And so a dybbuk is kind of a perversion of that. It's a sticky, evil spirit. And so back in the day, dybbuks were used a lot of the time in stories to scare people into orthodoxy. Like there's this idea that if you were having a religious doubt, or if you had a sloppily made mezuzah, it could cause a dybbuk to enter your home. Another interesting anecdote about a Dybbuk is that there was also this phenomenon where women would find themselves possessed by a Dybbuk like right before their wedding, and the presumption there is that they did not want this wedding. It was an unwanted match. They didn't like the guy, and saying that they were possessed by a Dybbuk was a way to get independence by becoming indisposed to being touched. So that's interesting. Probably not what this card is here to tell you, but I think in the context of this reading, this card is inviting you to think about whether there are any Dybbuks in your life right now. So maybe you find yourself stuck in thought patterns that are not healthy. Maybe you're carrying around resentment towards a person or a situation. Maybe fear or anxiety about something is getting the better of you. Maybe you've been hanging out with whatever your Dybbuk is for so long that it feels like it's just a part of you now. And this card is here to tell you that it's not. There was a pre-Dybbuk you, there can be a post-Dybbuk you. You're not married to your Dybbuk. It's not your life partner. Whatever this is for you, you can leave it behind. This death card is about transformation. You can acknowledge its presence, be grateful for what it's taught you, and set it down. You've reached the end of a chapter. It's time for a new beginning for you, which I think leads us perfectly into the Ace of Cups. So in the Rider-Waite Tarot, this is depicted as a chalice overflowing with streams of water. But in this card, we have serpents. So traditionally, this card is about new, happy, emotional beginnings. It's a new romance, it's renewed feelings in an old relationship. It's a spark of creativity in your work or a new project or job that you're excited about. But I think that with the Dybbuk, with the serpents, there is something that you need to purge before these rewards are yours. So if there's negative emotion that you've been holding back because you're trying to be strong or stoic, or you just feel like you don't have the time or energy to get into those emotions right now, I think you need to find a way to release. This card is confirmation that there's a really joyful new start around the corner. But just make sure you've gotten all that old energy out first. Sometimes you can carry around sadness and anger longer than you need to because it's homey and comfortable, and it kind of continues to let you feel close to someone or something that you've lost. But I think it's time. This card's telling you that it's time to put that aside so you can enter into something new. So next we have the Six of Wands, which traditionally shows a man on a horse in a victory celebration. But in this deck, we've got King David on his throne. I think David is an interesting choice here. In the Bible, David seduces a married Bathsheba after he sees her bathing. She then gets pregnant, and then in order to try to cover it up, David tries to get her husband home from the army. So her husband will sleep with her and think that the child is his. But the husband refuses to come home from the army out of a sense of duty. So then David is like, okay, let's just try to kill him. And he puts the husband in the front lines of battle, hoping that he'll die. So then God calls David out on all this, and David does repent. He's eventually forgiven. I'm going to guess that this specific situation does not apply to you. I'm hoping that you have not recently committed adultery and then tried to trigger kill that person's partner. And if you have done that, this isn't the reading for you. You should go handle that situation. But if not, I think there's something else in your past that you feel guilty about. Maybe it's something that you did, or sort of a more historical injustice that you feel like you've benefited from, and it's poisoned your success, and you wonder if you really deserve the recognition that you're getting. You might have a bit of an imposter syndrome. And I think that this card is telling you that attempting to do an accounting of what good and bad things in your life you deserve and what was unjustly given to you is noble, but it is impossible. I think what you can know for sure is that the world is unfair. You have a responsibility to help make it more fair. And in order to do that, you need to forgive yourself for your past mistakes and be open about your feelings with others and allow people to know about your flaws and allow them to still love you, because of course they still love you. You are a very unusually wise person. You are funny, you're caring, and you are all of those things because of your past mistakes, because your encounters with guilt and shame and trauma, that stuff helped you be more truthful, be more empathetic, be more able to see the world clearly, more able to stop taking things so seriously and to see the humor in every situation. And I think by being transparent about what you have been in the past, you will heal and you'll find new ways of being, and you will be victorious. The Six of Wands, this victory is yours for the taking. So finally, we have the Three of Wands. In the Rider-Waite deck, this card shows a man with his back turned, looking over the landscape from a high cliff, and it symbolizes foresight and preparation for new opportunities. I think it's interesting that in this deck we have 3 harpists, and it's maybe also interesting in the context of the Six of Wands, since King David was supposedly a very talented harpist. But I think now might be time in which you're starting to plan your next steps in a certain area, and you're leaning towards commitment. So for example, maybe you're thinking about sticking with your job because you see a promotion in the horizon. Maybe there is a big relationship step you're thinking about making, like moving in with your partner or getting engaged. And you can take this card as confirmation that, yeah, take that leap. But I think that the presence of others in this card, that we have the 3 harpists, I think it's also a reminder that you shouldn't make that decision alone. Find support in your relationships, talk to coworkers, talk to mentors, find friends who have faced similar choices. And I think this card is saying that it is time for you to execute those plans, but make sure you have a community around you so you're prepared for what's next. Okay, so that is the tarot for you. And now let's take a look at your oracle cards. So we are going to start with the Omens deck, which is based on letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So you have 1 black card and 1 white card, and I want you to think of these as advice for a decision you're making right now. So the black card might be one path you might take, and the white card might be a different path. So for example, if you're interested in someone romantically, maybe this card will be if you wait for them to initiate, and this card is if you make the first move. But take a moment to think about what situation you'd like to ask about, what the black card will mean for you, what the white card will mean for you. Pause the video if you would like, and we'll look at your advice. So, your black card is the letter Kaf. So this is the hand holding on to life, holding on to truth, holding on to reality. Kaf as a letter evolved from a symbol of a hand. Let me see if I can find that for you. Yeah, so here we can see sort of the letter Kaf, and you see the hand and the evolution of the shape. But I see this as a reminder to you that everything that you hold, you will eventually have to let go. So if you make the choice, if you go down the path you were thinking about with this card, it will bring you everything that you've hoped for. It will bring you the satisfaction that you were looking for. But it will only bring you those things if you don't try to control the outcome, if you don't try to hold on too tightly to this. To remember to cherish what you have, because it's temporary. It won't be there forever. I think this path might be the right one for you, but you ultimately will need to sacrifice something in order to stay true to yourself and to stay true to it. So only go down this path if you're ready for that. So that is your black card here. And then for your white card, we have Hey. So this letter is the sound of holy relief. It's coming home to our soul. It's the first letter of hallelujah, the ancient word for praise. And this letter, let's see if I can find that, was initially drawn as a man with his hands up in the air. Let's see. Yeah, so here we go. So here's the Hebrew letter today. This is the letter, or the symbol that it evolved from. You can see this man is just in the state of praise and holy relief. And I see this card as affirmation that if you make the choice that you had in mind with the white card, if you go down this path, it will feel deeply right. You will feel an immense gratitude. You will feel inner peace. And I do think that the rewards of this choice might be more internal You might be relinquishing external material rewards in exchange for gaining a greater sense of joy and peace and sort of closeness with the divine within yourself. Okay, so those are those oracle cards. And if we're ending the reading, let's look at your last oracle card, which is from the Jewish Mystic Deck. And this represents the energy that you will be entering into this season. So we have red wine and a drop of white wine. Yain adom v'tzpat yain levan. Excuse my terrible Hebrew accent. So the guide for this deck interprets this card as a process coming into full bloom. So you've already not just planted a seed, but you have grown something strong and beautiful and enduring. And this card is telling you that you don't need to protect it so closely. You can harvest the fruit, you can feed it to others, you can take a rest in the shade. You have grown this beautiful, strong tree. And don't give up on this thing you've created. Don't minimize your achievement. Don't say, oh no, it's like, just a little seedling. You have accomplished so much. So open your eyes and see how magnificent your creation is. Okay, pile one. That is all I have for you. Thank you so much for listening to this reading. Please let me know in the comments if this was helpful for you or if there's anything you would like to see in a future video. And please like and subscribe if you'd like me to keep doing these. I hope you have a wonderful day. Hi, pile two. So for those of you who chose this watercolor, this is your reading. We're going to start with tarot to take a look at your current situation, and then we will move on to oracle cards for advice. So for the tarot, I'm using the Lilien Tarot deck, which is this really cool deck that I found that uses illustrations that were made in the early 20th century by an Eastern European Jewish artist named Ephraim Moses Lilien. The deck was created much more recently, so these illustrations were not made with tarot in mind, but they generally have sort of Jewish mythological and biblical themes. And I definitely find it really interesting which illustrations they chose for specific cards, and we'll be getting into some of the kind of biblical history and Jewish mythology sort of connections with the cards. So if that's not something you're looking for in a tarot reading, this might not be the video for you, but if you're intrigued, let's get into it. So for you, we have the Nine of Cups, the Nine of Pentacles, the Six of Swords, and the Queen of Pentacles. Interesting. So this is looking like a really happy, peaceful set of cards. There are lots of nines. 9 in tarot is about completion, integration. The hard work is done. It's time to take stock of what you've accomplished and feel grateful and look forward to 10, the ultimate fulfillment and completion of a journey. And in gematria, which is Jewish numerology, where letters and words correspond to numbers, 9 is the letter tet, which is the same letter that begins tov, Hebrew for good. And the first time tet appears in Torah is in the word tov, actually. The word for truth, emet, also reduces to 9. And the word for pure, tahir, and impure, tamar, both begin with tet, sort of signifying that purity comes from impurity, and both are fused together in the divine. I think with 9, there's also this analogy in the gematria to pregnancy. There's the 9 months of gestation. There's this good that's hidden and comes to light. It's painful in the birthing, but it's a gift to everyone. And I think that with the 9 of Cups, that's what this is all about. So there's something you've been really wishing for, and almost wishing for so much that it's been painful. And this is confirmation that it is coming to you very soon. And you should celebrate its impending arrival by forgetting about it and continuing to do what you've been doing. And I say that because in the Rider-Waite deck, so this card is this dude, he's chilling, he's got this kind of smug, happy look, and there's a lot of cups hanging out behind him. But in this deck, with this card, we have a man playing the harp. And I think that's a suggestion, that instead of sitting around waiting for this good thing to come to you, you might want to instead immerse yourself in the act of creation and ushering in this wonderful thing by investing your emotion and making beautiful moments now. You can play music, you can make art, you can write poems, write in a diary, you can call a loved one or send a letter to them. Become wrapped up in tiny joys of creation, whatever that might mean for you, so that when this big thing comes about, it's this complete surprise because you've been so immersed, so focused on living in the present. Okay, so it's the Nine of Cups. It's exciting. And then the next card is the Nine of Pentacles, which in this deck is represented by an illustration of Bathsheba with her son Solomon. And I really love how Bathsheba is represented here because throughout all of art history, she is represented totally naked and kind of seductively taking a bath, while David, her eventual husband, is kind of lurking in a corner lusting after her. And that's because artists in medieval times and and after really wanted to paint naked women, but they could only justify it if there was a Bible story that they could use to justify why they were painting a naked woman. And Bathsheba was one of the only Bible stories that really featured female nudity. But here, instead of that, so it's kind of rapey depiction of Bathsheba taking a bath. We get Bathsheba totally clothed with a scroll, sitting on a throne, giving her son Solomon advice. And that is a nice change of pace. I think that the Nine of Pentacles is, all about that energy. It is about independence. It is about prosperity. It's about the payoff of a lot of hard work. And I think that, with this Nine of Cups, it's telling you about this impending emotional fulfillment, which is a culmination of a lot of emotional work you've been doing. And this Nine of Pentacles is about reaping the rewards from more the outward focused work that you've been doing. So you're getting really close to reaching a personal health and fitness goal, or finishing a huge project at work, or you've been smart about your money and your bank account's looking really good. Whatever it is, the Nine of Pentacles is telling you, you are almost there. Your work has not gone unnoticed. Rewards are coming. Okay. So I think it's interesting that after the nines, the other number we have in this reading is a 6. And 6 is the value of falsehood, sheker, in gematria. So we've got truth, emet, with 9. We have lies with 6. But 6 is also the number of the letter vav, a hook. And vav is used with they, meaning and. It's a letter that holds things together and connects things. So in the Torah, the first use of vav is to say, the heavens and vav, the earth. And 6 is also about the physical world. The Torah describes creation as happening in 6 days. All objects, if you read the Talmudic commentary, can be described in 6 sides. So there's right, there's left, there's top, there's bottom, there's front, there's back. And on the 6th day of creation, God made 6 things. There's Adam, Eve, creeping things, cattle, beasts, and demons. So 6 is a very material number. It's very connecting. It bridges things. And we see that here in the 6 of Swords, which is a card about this transition from one place to another. In the Rider-Waite deck, this image is a woman and her child, and they're huddled on a boat, and they're going towards an unknown new land. And I think this is telling you that there is something that you will need to let go of in order to continue growing. It might be related to this 9 of Cups and 9 of Pentacles, and that you're nearing the completion of a period of really intense work towards a goal. And that might mean that how you're spending your time might change. For example, maybe you're writing a book and you're almost done, and that's amazing, but it's been your entire life for years, and it will be hard to say goodbye, and it'll be scary to enter a new unknown where you don't know, what's next. Your whole routines will be upended. So that could be what this is talking about. Or it could be that the success is coming your way with the 9 of Cups and Pentacles. There's going to be a new opportunity coming out of this that you can't currently foresee. Maybe it's a new job, maybe it's an offer to relocate, maybe it's a romantic interest. But in accepting that opportunity, you're going to have to say goodbye to people and places that you love. I think that this card is reassuring you that there will be something you need to let go of, and it will be emotionally turbulent to do it, but you can be confident that, this loss is necessary, that holding on wouldn't have done anyone any good. Okay, so lastly, we have the Queen of Pentacles, which is represented on this card by Jacob and Rachel. You might remember their kind of strange love story where Jacob sees Rachel, he falls in love, goes to her father, says he wants to marry her, and he says, sure, you just have to work for me for 7 years. Then at the wedding, the father tricks him by replacing Rachel with her sister Leah and hiding her behind a veil so he can't know. Actually, the Midrash on Lamentations says that Rachel was complicit in this. So she was heartbroken, she loved Jacob, but she also loved her sister, and she had a lot of compassion for her unwed sister. And she wanted her to be happy, so she helped coach Leah on things to say to Jacob so that she would sound more Rachel-like. And it even suggests that she hid under the wedding bed, so when Jacob asked Leah stuff, Rachel could respond, and so her voice would be the same, which I think is highly suspect because it seems sort of dubious that a voice coming underneath a bed is less weird than, just the sister having a different voice. Anyway, I don't know, I don't get it, but point being, Rachel was, extremely generous and empathetic and sort of practical and trying to get her sister married first. And I think that's the Queen of Pentacles energy. I think that this card is a sign that with the emotional and material happiness you're about to enter into with the Nine of Cups and the Nine of Pentacles, you're going to be in a place to do things with and for other people that you haven't been able to recently. You're going to be in a more sort of generous, empathetic spirit. And maybe that looks like mentoring or volunteering, or maybe it's just about being able to invest more in friendships and relationships that have fallen off a bit while your focus has been elsewhere. I think this Queen of Pentacles is also a sign that you might be getting to a place where it makes sense to implement new routines or habits that you've been contemplating for a while, because you'll really be in a headspace where you can execute plans effortlessly. Okay, so pile 2, let us shift to looking at your oracle cards now. So we are going to start with the Omens deck, which is based on letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So you have one black card and one white card. I know they look the same on the reverse. I promise this one's black and this one's white. And I want you to think of these cards as advice for a decision that you're making right now. So the black card will be one path that you might take, and the white card will be a different path. For example, if you have a crush on someone, maybe the black card is if you wait for them to reach out, and the white card is if you make the first move. So take a moment to think about what situation you would like to ask about, what the black card will mean for you and what the white card will mean. Okay, so crazily enough, let's look at these. Black card is the Aleph, and I thought this was quite an interesting coincidence that the white card is also the Aleph. So out of all the letters in the alphabet, pulled the exact same card for the black and white, and quite a letter at that. Aleph is the first letter. It represents freedom, it's timelessness. The bet is the first letter in the Bible, opens up the whole thing. And so there's this interesting idea that Aleph, despite being the first letter, since it's not the first letter in the Bible, since it's the second letter that's the first letter in the Bible, that means that Aleph comes before the Bible. It's before time, it's before everything. There's this kind of freedom and infinity with Aleph. And I think that with the decision you have in mind, I would interpret it as this. It does not matter which decision you make, whether you go with the black route or the white route. The answer will be the same, the outcome will be the same. And I hope that that is liberating news. You know, you are free to do whatever you feel called to do without regret. You know, for example, if you're wondering if you should text a love interest, you know, it won't matter. If it is meant to work out, it will work out and they will message you soon. If it is not meant to work out, messaging them or not messaging them will not make a lick of difference. Another example, if you're thinking about taking a new job opportunity, will not matter what you do. If you decline it, another opportunity will come along. If you take it, it'll probably be just as satisfying and unsatisfying, you know, in the same ways as your current job or whatever you would do if you stuck with it. So I know there's a lot of contradictions in that message. You know, on the one hand, you are utterly free in the sense you can do whatever you want without fear that it's the wrong choice. On the other hand, you have no freedom whatsoever because anything you do will make no impact. So it's kind of like you're in one of those recurring time loop, you know, Groundhog Day-esque Russian doll Palm Springs narratives where everything is going to reset in the morning. But isn't that kind of liberating as well? You know, you can do whatever you want here. No choice is the wrong choice. Follow your heart. Take a deep breath and just do whatever the hell you feel like doing. Let go of the weight of this decision. Okay. So, we will end the reading with a card from the Jewish Mystic deck, and this will represent the energy that you're entering into this season. So we have for you a pomegranate. I really love this card. The guide for this deck interprets the fruit as the search for wisdom, and I love that this woman is just curled up in it, you know, surrounded by seeds like they're little pillows, and they each have something to teach her, and she's just absorbing them with her third eye open. I think this is telling you that you're entering a phase, you know, where you're going to have so much abundance. You're going to be swimming in juicy, sweet, perfect little pomegranate seeds. You know, your 9 of Cups, your 9 of Pentacles, things are coming to fruition. And it could be tempting to just like eat them all, go nuts. And I think this card is suggesting that you should also take a moment to just rest and luxuriate within all of this joy. You know, I think we so often look for wisdom within difficult experiences. You know, one of the silver linings of pain is that it's instructive, but there is a lot to learn from experiencing happiness as well. So take a moment and sit within it and make the most of it. So that is all I have for you, Pile 2. Thank you so much for choosing this reading. Please let me know in the comments if it was helpful for you, or if there's anything you'd like to see in a future video. And please like and subscribe if you'd like me to do more readings. Hi, Pile 3. So if you chose this watercolor, then this is going to be your reading. We are going to start by looking at your tarot, and then we are going to move into oracle cards for advice. So for tarot, I'm using the Lilien Tarot deck, which is this really cool deck that uses illustrations that an Eastern European Jewish artist in the late 19th and early 20th century named Ephraim Moses Lilien made. Most of these images have biblical or sort of Jewish mythologic themes. The deck was made long after his death, so he wasn't involved in the association of these images with tarot, but I think it's interesting to think about why certain images were chosen for certain cards, and we'll be getting into that and kind of the numerology and sort of the biblical references as we go along. So if that is of interest, then stick around. If not, this might not be your reading, but let's get into it. So we have the King of Swords. We have the Two of Cups. We have the Lovers. This over. And we have the Wheel of Fortune. This is an extremely romantic reading. Doesn't have to be interpreted romantically, but if you were hoping for a reading about a love interest, I think this is a really positive sign. So to start, we have the King of Swords, which is all about intellectual power and clarity and truth. You know, it's someone with really high standards who is very intellectually sharp, and they're disciplined and they're decisive. And I think this might mean that a person with those qualities is coming into your life. Like this could be the union that we're seeing in the rest of these cards. And if there is someone you have in mind who fits that description, or if you meet someone who fits that description, this could be, confirmation of that. But I actually think it's more likely that this card is here to tell you that you're going to need to harness those qualities of, intellectual discipline and clarity and truth-telling, that you'll need to harness those qualities within yourself in order to achieve these happy objectives, whether they're romantic or platonic. So on the card, we see Joshua and his future wife, I think. I think this is her, Rahab, repenting her life of prostitution, which, as a random aside, I don't think anyone ever needs to be repenting for prostitution, but Joshua probably doesn't care about my opinion on that. But according to the Midrash, Rahab was among the foremost beautiful women to ever exist. And even just saying her name twice in a row. So Rahab is supposed to inspire lust. But then there's this whole Talmudic thing where one guy was like, I tried it, didn't work, don't feel lustful. And then another person was like, it only works if you've met her. So if you try it, mileage may vary. But she was supposedly a prostitute for 40 years. And then she heard of the miracles that God performed for the Israelites, and she converted to Judaism at age 50. And then according to the Midrash, that's when she married Joshua, and then this whole line of Kohanim and prophets descended from that union. I think there's something a little weird going on with ages and fertility and whatever there, but that's happens a lot in the Bible, not getting into that. And anyway, she's held up as an example of a very sincere and righteous convert. So that was a bit of a digression, but I think it could be an indication that your union with a partner might come after a shifting in belief systems. So maybe one or the other of you is literally converting to a new religion, and after conversion you find each other. But more metaphorically, this might also be a sign that if you're not yet in a relationship with your person, it won't happen until there's a major shift in your understanding of yourself and your life purpose. Okay, it's the King of Swords. Next we have the Two of Cups, which in the traditional Rider-Waite deck is a man and a woman exchanging cups under caduceus, but here we have Adam and Eve, and they're standing under the tree of knowledge as Eve is handing Adam the fruit. And this is a super positive card for a new, happy, balanced relationship, especially a romantic one, but if that's not what you're looking for, this could also just be a really great new friend coming into your life. It could be a business partnership, but this blessing is definitely coming your way. I do think you need to get into the King of Swords energy in order to bring it to fruition. So you'll likely need to be the one to initiate one way or another. It might not be, so literal as you meet the person, you have to make the first move, but it might just be that it's not until you're really speaking your mind and acting quickly when opportunities arise that this person comes around. Okay. And on to the Lovers. I kind of feel like we don't need the Lovers card here, the Two of Cards says it all. But I think here we have Adam and Eve embracing. And I think why we have these two cards together in this reading are to show us the evolution of the relationship. So maybe it starts as more of a platonic thing or just more tentative, and that's sort of the energy in this Two of Cups where they're just sort of almost getting to know each other. And then we move on to, the Lovers where they're embracing. There's this intimacy, there's this vulnerability, there's this knowledge of each other that isn't in the Two of Cups. And I think that this is saying that whether romantic or platonic, this is a major relationship in your life that will evolve and deepen over time. Someone who's going to come in and be a lifelong friend, someone who's going to really be there for you. And lastly, we have the Wheel of Fortune, which again, just in the same way that the Lovers feels redundant with the Two of Cups, the Wheel of Fortune just feels redundant with these two really happy cards. But I think this is just here to say that, this is an incredible stroke of luck in your life. You and this person are going to feel so lucky to find each other. And this isn't just some random event. This was fated for you. This was meant to be. You should cherish this relationship. The Wheel of Fortune is going to turn again and again in your life. It's not always going to be happy returns, but this is a person that you'll be able to rely on to navigate those ups and downs. Okay, so this has been a shorter tarot reading than the other ones, but these cards are just so straightforward, and I'm excited for this love coming your way, or this, new relationship, whether it's romantic or platonic. But we're going to go and look at the oracle cards now. So I'm using the Omens deck, which is based on letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And I have pulled one black card and one white card from the deck. I know that the backs look the same, but I promise this one's black, this one's white. And I want you to think of these as advice for a decision you're making right now. So the black card will represent one path you might take, and the white card will represent a different path. For example, if you're, thinking about pursuing someone romantically, maybe the black card is if you wait for them to initiate, and the white card is if you make the first move. But I'd like you to take a moment, think about what situation you want to ask about, what the black will mean for you, what the white will mean. You could pause the video if you like, and then we'll take a look. Okay, so the black card is Lamed, which is the 12th letter of the alphabet. Has a gematria of 30. And the letter Lamed is shaped as a staff that shepherds used to guide their cattle in ancient times. Let me see if I can. In the book that came with this deck, they showed the evolution of letters over time. Let me try to find that for you. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So you can see how sort of the staff shape evolved into the modern, or Hebrew letter. And Lamed is also sort of related to questioning. So in Kabbalah, there's this idea of the Lamed with our head in the sky asking questions, and the Kuf rooted in the earth giving answers. And I think the gematria of 30 is also interesting, since 30 is the age at which the Midrash Shmuel says that people have the ability to change the world. So when you're younger than 30, you're just laying the foundation, you're asking questions, you're educating, and then you sort of hit this threshold moment where you're ready to go out and make change. So Lamed is all about being curious, it's about learning, it's about asking questions so that we can be transformative beings. And I think this card is advising you that the path that you're considering, whatever you were thinking about when you were thinking about the black card, I think it's saying that if you choose it, you are going to learn a lot from it. Like a lot of questions that you've had for years about all kinds of things are going to be answered if you go down this path. It might not bring you everlasting happiness. I think, it's meant to be a bit of a mystery, a bit of a question, what the outcome of this will be in terms of a sort of immediate satisfaction point of view. But I think it will bring you a lot of wisdom. Answers are near if you go down this route. Okay, so the white card is pei. So in Hebrew, pei is the word for mouth. The letter pei is spiraled, kind of like an ear or a mouth. And I think this is an invitation to you to listen, to connect to the world through sound, to pay attention if you go down this path. I think the choice that you associated with this card certainly could be the right one, but this is advice that you need to make sure that you're listening carefully to the response you're getting along the way. So as you start down the path, what are people telling you? What is the world telling you? What feelings are your body telling you to listen to you? What do you hear when you listen to your heartbeat, when you listen to your breath? Think about the decision and think about what you're hearing, pay attention to it, and don't move too fast. And you will know from the feedback you're getting from your own body and from the people around you whether this is the right thing for you to do or whether you need to change course. So just go slowly and pay attention. Okay, so we will end this reading with a card from the Jewish mystic deck, which represents the energy that you are entering into this season. So let's take a look. So we have for you white wine, yain levan, and the guide for this deck says that white wine is symbolic of the first light of creation. So it's a foundation for life to be built on. And we see this hand holding this illuminated cup. And I think it's really beautiful to end this reading with this image, with a single cup of wine. And so much of this reading was about, the Two of Cups, about, it's about the Two of Cups, about some pairing of some kind. And, I think if you'd like, you can see this as the hand of the divine offering this union to you, creating a new relationship for you. But I'd propose that you also see this cup as representing yourself, because you're enough. All of your experience begins with you and ends with you, and it's yours alone to build and shape as you please. And I think this is asking you a question, with or without a partner, what will you create with your life? Okay, so that is all I have for you. Thank you so much for listening to this reading. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos, and let me know in the comments what you thought. I hope you have a wonderful day. Hi, Pile 4. So if you chose this watercolor, then this will be your reading. And we're going to start with tarot to take a look at your current situation, and then we'll move on to oracle cards for advice. For the tarot, I am using the Lilien Deck, which is this really cool deck that uses illustrations from Ephraim Moses Lilien, who was an Art Nouveau artist in the early 20th century. Did a bunch of sort of more kind of biblical and sort of Jewish mythological illustrations, and they weren't made with tarot in mind, but I think it's really interesting which images were chosen for certain cards. I'll definitely be getting into some of that in the reading, so if you're not interested in kind of midrashic commentary in the middle of a tarot reading, this might not be your video, but otherwise, let's get right into it. So for you, we have the King of Pentacles, the Hierophant, the Queen of Wands, and the Hermit. All right. So I think I want to sort of pair these together and pair these guys together. So we've got the King of Pentacles and Hierophant on the left, the Queen of Wands and the Hermit over here. Because I think these have very different energies, and I think this is kind of telling us about a choice of some kind that you're facing in life, or some tension that you're caught between in terms of two different philosophies about the way to approach a problem or a situation. So on the one hand, we have this energy of the King of Pentacles and the Hierophant. So the King of Pentacles, is all about discipline, control, power. And the Hierophant's about tradition, about institutional knowledge, kind of doing things the way that they've always been done, the wisdom of the ancestors. In this card, we see this man in contemplation, and he's sort of caught up in this web of rose brambles. And here we see this man who's being held back. He was looking east towards Jerusalem and is being held back by barbed wire. And then on this other side, we have this very different energy. So the Queen of Wands here is represented by Ruth harvesting wheat. I love Ruth. She's the one who, when her husband and her brother-in-law and her father-in-law all die, and her mother-in-law Naomi says, you should go home, you should find a new husband, there's nothing left for you here. And Ruth says, no, I don't want to leave you all alone. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God shall be my God. And I always thought that was just the most beautiful thing, her willingness to walk into the unknown and forsake the opportunity to find a new partner, and just doing it out of love and kindness for Naomi. And that is the Queen of Wands. She's about being courageous and passionate and self-possessed and sensual and not giving a fuck what other people think. And I think the Hermit is a little bit similar. So here on the Hermit card, we have the prophet Isaiah. And according to Midrash, Isaiah experienced some super high quality prophetic visions. He was Moses level, and it actually says that it's possible that Isaiah had Moses' soul within him, and that's why he had a speech impediment. I'm not sure how the two are related. Maybe just sort of competing souls trying to find a voice. And I think Isaiah, sort of similar to the Queen of Wands, or similar to Ruth, I think there's a sort of interesting sort of independent streak and willingness to really go against prevailing wisdom. So, Isaiah says to God, like, behold, here I am, send me as a prophet. And he says that, knowing that most prophets at the time were subjected to torture and death. But he was listening to his inner voice, as was Ruth. And I think that's sort of the vibe here of finding wisdom within and not being afraid to be alone and just finding peace and spiritual insight within your solitude. So what I think is going on here is you have these two very divergent paths of how you can be. Right now there's this root of self-control and discipline and doing things the traditional way. And it's probably tempting because it's safe and it's familiar. And in some ways it feels like it would be the mature thing to do. Evidence that you've got all your shit together and, it's a thing that your community would understand and expect of you, and you might find more acceptance and more comfort if you do things this way. And then there's this other option where you say, to hell with it. Don't care what people think. I don't care about the way things are done. I'm going to walk into the unknown and I'm going to feel free, and I don't know what will befall me, but I'm going to go on this adventure anyway and find out. And I don't think this reading is here to tell you which path is right for you. I think there are times in life, where it makes sense to play it safe, either because you just don't have sort of the inner resources at the moment to go out and do your own thing, or maybe there's something you need to learn from playing it safe first. Maybe you're going into a corporate job and you're doing it not because you love it, but because there are skills you need there in order to then go out and incite a Marxist revolution. Like, you need to understand the tradition before you can break out of it. Could be that. And then there's other times where this is the right way to go, where you're ready to go on your own way, and you just can't put on the business casual clothes anymore and pretend to be normal. It's that period of time is over. And I think you need to follow your intuition on this one. But I do think the tarot has a little bit to say. There's the brambles over here, there's the barbed wire, and I think it's a bit of a hint that the safe path, or the path that seems safe, isn't always as safe as it seems. And there might be a lot of beauty and comfort over here, even if it's harder to see at first. Okay, so that is your tarot. Let us move on to the oracle cards now. So for the oracle cards, we're going to start with the Omens deck, which is based on letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Here's the guide for this deck. You can see it just, each card has a different letter. And I have pulled one black card and one black card and one white card for you. And I think what we're going to do is think about these as advice for a decision that you're currently facing. And it could be the one that we were just talking about here. So the black card will represent advice for sort of one path or one sort of way of approaching the decision that you're thinking about. And the white card will be advice if you choose a different path. So for example, if you have a crush on someone and you're trying to decide whether to reach out or not, maybe the black card is you make a first move, you reach out. The white card is if you wait to see what they do. So take a moment to think about what situation you'd like to ask about, what the black will mean, what the white will mean, and then we'll take a look. Okay, so the black card that we have for you is Mem, which is the 13th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It has a gematria of 40, and it's all about water. So 40 is the number of days that it rained on the earth during the flood. A mikveh, it's a Jewish ritual bath, is made of 40 gallons of water. It's the first letter of Mayim, which is the Hebrew word for water. And the letter Mem actually got its beginning, evolved from a symbol for water. Let me see if I can find it in the book. Yeah, here we go. So you can see it sort of evolved from this watery shape to the letter that it is now. I think what this is telling us is sort of a message of transformation. Water is healing, it's transformative, it's ever-changing. You enter the mikveh impure and you exit pure. You enter the mikveh before a conversion and you exit with your Jewish soul revealed. It takes you from one place to another place spiritually. And I think that the choice that you were thinking about with this card will lead to a positive transformation of some kind. A stuck situation will get unstuck. A stagnant relationship will find a new spark. I think things that were not serving you will wash away and you will find yourself just flowing seamlessly towards a new reality. I think it's a very positive message with this option. So now let's look at the white card. So we have Vav. Vav is a 6th letter. It represents a hook, and in Hebrew, put in front of a word, it means and. And when you put it in front of, a verb specifically, it can transform the tense from past to future to past, so from it was to it will be. So the energy of Vav is, it's very connecting. It's bridging things together, even things that don't seem bridgeable, like past and future. And I think this card is reminding you that if you choose the path that you had in mind with this, events will not unfold in a vacuum. So other things are going to come along with them. And they might be, or probably will be, things from your past. So maybe there's something that you lost that you want back in your life. And if you go down this route, it's going to pop up again. But it could also be something that you left behind for a reason and you were hoping to stay in the past. So I think you should just think about what you might be welcoming in if you make this decision, choose this path, then just ask yourself if it's truly something you want and something you're excited about before you take action. Okay, let me put this here. And we're going to end the reading with a card from the Jewish Mystic deck. And this is going to represent the energy that you're entering into this season. So let's take a look. Okay. I love this card. So this is Kingdom, Malchut. So Malchut is the lowest of the Kabbalistic Sephirot, which are the 10 channels through which God reveals divine will. And because it's the lowest, it's represented on this card with the feet. And Malchut is felt internally as the Shekhinah, so the feminine presence of the divine. And you think of the Shekhinah and this feminine presence because Malchut is conceived of as the receiver. So it's the sea into which all of the waters of the divine flow. So unlike the other Sephirot, you don't think of Malchut as a source of divine light, but as a collection point, and the purpose for which all the divine light exists, like it exists to flow to the kingdom. And I think what this card is telling you, why this is here and talking about the energy you're entering into, is that sometimes, and maybe you're entering into one of these periods, you might be feeling very empty, like you don't have any spark of your own, like you don't even maybe have a soul. You're just this empty, exhausted body on autopilot doing what you need to get by. And if you do feel this way, I think that this card is here to tell you that sometimes feeling that way has a sacred purpose. It's this wonderful thing. It's this emptying out of the soul so that whatever it is you think of as God, whether that's nature, goodness, love, meaning, infinite wonder, whatever it is, so that can find room within you so you can feel closer to the divine. All right, pile 4. That is all I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing this reading. Please let me know in the comments if it was helpful for you or if there's anything you'd like to see in a future video. And please like and subscribe if you'd like me to create more of these. Have a great day.